time. Oh. Take a moment. Yes. Yes, my talk today is takes your breath away. And of course, this would be the wolf. When she was growing up, from the very get-go, it was hard to imagine that she was even real. Because the fluffier she got, the more she looked like a stuffed animal, and that she couldn't possibly be real. And I still do double takes with her. So she has a lot of boundary issues. She doesn't like to be pressed upon, you know? So we have a family bed. And as soon as Paul gets up in the morning, Alaska and Freedom are there. But usually it's just Alaska and me and Paul. And Paul gets up and then the others join me. But when I can't find Chenoa, I know exactly where she is. Once the bedroom has been evacuated, she then goes and has the bed all to herself. We kind of have a light oak bedroom, you know, it's like a blonde bedroom anyway. And you can barely see her in the sheets, but she sits right in the smack in the middle with her head up, and she's so proud, and she has all this confidence. And it's just, I go to the doorway, and I know who I'm going to see, and I still go, wow, she's so amazing. Then I stand and look at her for a while, and she goes, what? What? And then, of course, if I start to approach her, the tail starts wagging, the head goes down, she rolls over. But we're going to talk today about things that take your breath away. And then what that does to you, what that does for you. Oopsie daisy. I don't know, girl. Yeah. So do you want to relax a little bit? No. I want to go find Antoinette. I'm going to mill around the room. Chenoa. She's going to investigate. Chenoa. Good girl. So Thich Nhat Hanh says this. Breath is the bridge which connects life to consciousness, which unites our bodies with our thoughts. Whenever your mind becomes scattered, use your breath as a means to take hold of your mind again. Ooh. I think that's why that anytime you're like going crazy or whatever, everybody just goes, breathe. You know, like a couple of weeks ago in that talk, when the police officer told me, just, breathe, relax, breathe. So let's just do that right now. Just take an exhale and breathe. It reminds me that each breath is every moment, and every moment is each breath you take. So in order to be present in the moment, which would be in the right consciousness, you have to be breathing and not holding. So let the chair that you're sitting in have you. You don't have to hold on to yourself. And the gravity of the earth, Mother Earth, has the chair, so you cannot fall. And know this with me.
You're breathing.
As always. Let them sing. You are held in the hands of grace, forever safe in the arms of love. Like a child receives protection from a mother's warm embrace, we are held in the hands of grace. We are held in the intelligence, this thing that we call the life source, the creator of all things, and that it is present in, around, and through us at all times in each and every moment. I know that we are made of the stuff of the universe, and that we are connected to each other and every living thing, seen and unseen, and that there is evidence in every single moment. If we choose to see, and if we choose to sense it, and we choose to feel it, to know our connection to each and every living thing on the planet. And I claim with this energy, this creative source that's running in, around, and through us, that our heart's desires are moving us in the direction of our divine purpose. I know it. I claim it for you. I claim it for me. This knowingness, this inner wisdom that takes us with each step closer and closer and closer to ourselves and each other, to live the highest possibility of all of our dreams and the dreams of the planet, and the dreams that God, I call God, give us, brought us here to fulfill this divine purpose that moves us in every direction. And so with great gratitude, I say thank you for all our gifts, for all the good that came before, all the good that is here now, and all the good is yet to come. I release it knowing that it is done. And we can say, and so it is. Amen. Namaste. A whole, in whatever language that fills your heart and speaks truth to your being. We live in an ocean of air like fish live in a body of water. By our breathing, we are attuned to our atmosphere. If we inhibit our breathing, we isolate ourselves from the medium in which we exist. In all the Oriental and mystic philosophies, the breath holds the secret to our highest bliss. There's a reason in the beginning, before I do that song, that I tell you guys, just breathe. You actually cannot relax unless you exhale. The next breath is the exhale. And most of the times I find that we are holding on and holding our breaths. And then in order to survive, we'll end up breathing. And then we find ourselves shortness of breath, and then we find ourselves lightheaded, and we find ourselves dizzy, or we have headaches, or we have chronic pains because of the breath. We're not breathing. And the breath just doesn't happen in your lungs, it happens in your entire body. Even the lungs are the function of taking in some air. The oxygen feeds every cell, all the way down to your tippy toes. Oh. And then we take vacations to go someplace where where the sun and the atmosphere actually helps you breathe and relax. But you can't wait 2 weeks out of the year to go to the beach. Or go take a hike in the mountains and get all of this, stuff in your lungs. So it's something to be mindful of, that in each breath is where the present moment is. Here's the other thing, if you're not conscious of the things that can take your breath away, to slow down and smell the roses and smell the flowers and take in the stars, all the things that we find amazing and magnificent and give us the reason and the inspiration to continue. We can't do that if we're holding on for dear life, to life, to get through the day. And so it's just a gentle reminder, just to breathe. Karen Canfield is going to sing some songs for us today. Come on up.
Hello.
All right.
Once in every life, love should leave you without a choice. Where the only thing right
So beautiful, huh? Yeah. Thank you. In the end, it's not about how many breaths you took. In the end, it's about how many moments that took your breath away. I would tell you who wrote that, but I can't pronounce it. Volks, I can't do it. Volksweisheit, anyway, I can't do it, but it's beautiful, right? Steve Maraboli says, sometimes it's the same moments that take your breath away that breathe purpose and love back into your life. So I kind of made a list of those. You can be thinking of those too as I talk if you want. And then it'd be great if you wanted to share them later. But you know, I can't, there's every sunset and every sunrise. It just stops me. It stops me. And we get both. It's so amazing that when we move to a place where the sun comes up over here, and it goes down over there, but you can still see it over here. So we have sunsets on both sides. We don't have sunrises on both sides, but sunsets happen both places. And you're just surrounded by this wonderfulness. And then, of course, the stars. You know, I'd forgotten that there were stars until we moved here.
Yeah.
One night we were unloading and, holding on to ourselves and packing and had to get back to the city, and it was dark already, and all of a sudden I was walking over here to do something and unload, and I looked up and went, look! And then I made them stop. Look! Just, wow! Once again, one of those things you may have to go and run to another place to find the stars just so you can go. Look how small we are in the universe of all of it. And then, of course, trees. I've talked about this, for some of you know, one of the ways that when I was like thinking I was losing my mind or had to relax, that I had to find a tree and just sit and look at it and see the veins and the leaves of it so that I could connect back. So I could find my sanity again sometimes. And as a kid, I used to climb up the trees and just sit there. Like Chenoa, I'd go find my isolated space. When the boundaries got too close, I went and found a tree. And I was up. And then there's the things that inspired my childhood. I started gymnastics when I was 11. So the 1972 Olympics, Olga Korbut and Ludmila Terestcheva. Wow. Seriously, this is what they did at that time, which you guys are used to now, was like nothing no one had ever seen before. When Olga Korbut stood on the top of the uneven parallel bars and she did a backflip, nobody had ever done anything like that before. And Ludmila Terestcheva, she was like the quintessential gymnast because she had this grace. She wasn't just like this little girl. She had the woman in her was moving in this way. It became a girl sport after Olga, but it was a woman's sport. And she's kind of the last of the great women in that sport rather than the girls in that sport. Because Olga changed the level of difficulty that you had to have in order to compete. And of course, I have to mention Diane. Diane Cantwell, who was sitting with us, was slated to go to those Olympics and broke her back before she could go. But she was headed there. Takes your breath away. Yeah. Sometimes it takes life choices away. Some of the incidences in our lives. And 11 was a great year now that I'm thinking about it. 11 is 1969, I guess. No. I have to know it was 19. Well, anyway, I can't do the math. Anyway, figure it out. 58. Figure it out. But I do remember when I was 11, I saw Romeo and Juliet, the movie. And oh my gosh, I stayed in a wow and taking my breath away almost every single moment for the next few years because I memorized the entire, I bought the album, they had the soundtrack. I memorized the entire play from the movie. And I used to have birthday parties in my backyard in a tent, and all the girls, and we would perform it together. Someone would play Romeo, and and play Juliet, and act out the whole thing, and the friar and everything. The mother who goes crazy over the fact that they did it in Tybalt. I know. I can still see it in my eyes, mind's eye, and it was so beautiful and so gorgeous, and the language, and they made it so I could memorize it when I was 11. And of course, that led to my choice as an actress in Sophie's Choice. Because these are things you can see on Netflix. There's no other movie like Sophie's Choice, and the performance that happened there with Meryl Streep and Kevin Kline. And there are things that you see and things that you hear and songs and concerts that you've been to that you will never be the same again after experiencing it and leaving it. And those were two movies that I can say. And then I saw Phantom of the Opera on the LA stage. Oh my gosh! And I heard the album beforehand, I was like, okay, very operatic, But live, when the guy took his mask off at the stand, he basically got a standing ovation. He came out after the whole play was over, and this was the take your breath away moment. He walked out on stage, he took his mask off, and people stood there clapping. And usually it's like a clap and then it lasts like 3 minutes. It was a 20-minute standing ovation.
Wow.
And you did not still want him to leave. And part of what was so magnificent is that he stood there, and he took it all in, and you saw him get flushed, and you saw his eyes water, and you wanted more of him as a result. Now the mask was off. And he just stood there and accepted those applause. It became a really great exercise in my acting class called Name and Bow, where you have to stand there and we have to clap for you, and you just have to stand there and take it. It was probably the hardest thing my students ever had to learn. But let me tell you something. Some of the things that took my breath away was watching my students, my classes, reveal that part of themselves and be able to do that and get there and take those applause and feel that in their body, and it changed their experience of how they felt about themselves and gave them more courage to go out and share their inner selves with people, because that's what you do when she sits up here and sings and performs for us. You give a piece of your soul because it's part of your commitment to sharing your talent and your gifts with everybody else. And that takes our breaths away. We take each other's breaths away. Anthony Hopkins. This is a movie on Netflix too. It's one of his earlier ones in the 80s where he plays, I can't remember the name of it now, but he plays a ventriloquist and he does all of it. And he's a mad ventriloquist. He's kind of like a murderer, flash thriller thing still. He sits and has a conversation with this puppet or dummy or whatever you want to call it, whatever they are, on a couch as part of this film. And it was unbelievable. Not just and I was too young to really know what I was looking at talent-wise, other than I was just an audience member going, wow. These are unforgettable things that propelled me to excel, propelled me to want to share like that, propelled me to want to have that impact like that. Frank Sinatra I saw in Vegas. I was a totally different person after that. And he was even old by then. But the man was a musical instrument. He walked out on stage and you could hear a pin drop. And he's got a full orchestra behind him. And at one point he said, "Play it, guys." And he was on a stool in the dark on the side stage. You still couldn't take your eyes off of him. Because the music was still flowing. He was exuding the music playing. It was flowing through him. to such a level where I literally couldn't speak the rest of the night. I was so moved. And then you see, you know why, he's Frank Sinatra. But this thing that we have, the capacity, that connection to connect to music that way, to connect to an audience that way, to walk in a room and everybody goes, that's in each and every one of us. Isn't that what a child wants to see from their parents when they walk in the room? Is it to take your breath away? Look at you, look at who you are. Look at you. Wow, how magnificent. And on a parent's level, like, wow, you came out of me. I made that. It must be amazing. I didn't get that opportunity. I know, it's amazing. It's amazing. Harrison Ford was walking down the streets of New York one day in my direction. I could see him from a block away. And I was waiting for a light to cross the street. I'll never forget it. All of a sudden I'm like, wow, that looks like Harrison Ford. And he was in, like, you knew he was rushing to get someplace. And he had to have been someplace else because this was New York and he had a tan. But his hair was kind of like salt and pepper and it was all done and he was in this double-breasted suit and he was like marching down the, and I was eating a popsicle. It was really hot. But not a sweat. Like, you know what I mean? I'm in like short sleeves and not a sweat. And he's walking and walking and walking and I'm like, and he caught my eye staring at him. I literally stopped moving. I'm really embarrassed about this because usually I'm cool around them. But my popsicle stuck in my mouth. He looked at me and gave me a wink and walked right by. He didn't slow down. I was like, gosh, didn't go the other direction. Before I could, even when I couldn't see him anymore, we're still standing on the corner going, wow. But I was mindful then, which I didn't know when I was watching Anthony Hopkins, about what that was. And I sat and actually took it in consciously to go, wow. On the streets of New York in a crowd, he can still be giving all of himself. All of himself. There's a lot of stars, they walk down the street with, you know what I mean, they've got scarves over their faces and things and their heads to try and that just brings more attention, like, who is that trying to hide from you? But he was right out there. Right out there. It was magnificent. It's not even a movie, it's my own little movie, my own little private movie I had with him that I'll never forget. You know, and then there's the near misses. It's not like just things that are awesome that take your breath away. There are some awesome things that happen to you. When I was skiing in Lake Providence, Louisiana, there was a water moccasin. Just floating on top of the water, sunning itself right outside the cypress trees. I know. Oh. I'm on my skis going, oh, now is not the time to fall. Yeah. Now is not the time to fall. And it was the first day of a 2-week vacation and I never got in the water after that. I got off my skis right in front of our pier. I left the skis in the water. I went to the pier, I got out and I'm like, I knew they were there all along, but seeing one is a totally different story. Took me out of the water and out of the lake forever. Not that it should, but I was that scared and that close to it. And then I was driving down the freeway one day, and all of a sudden, this flying object, you guys who saw my car thing, talking I was driving from, I was around Glendale, I was like going around this curve, and you know how one freeway goes up and one freeway goes down? Anyway, all of a sudden, this flying object comes speeding right towards my windshield. And I let go and I covered my face. That's how scared I was. And my car was out of so much alignment that it moved just far enough for this thing that was the size of it was a metal ball about the size of a baseball, and it hit right between my windshield and my window. I put a dent in it. I am still in awe of that move.
Wow.
Yeah. You know, that's when you know the angels are watching, you know? Seriously, I thought I was toast. Thank goodness I didn't align my wheels. Of course, that dent stayed there for a long time, but still, it was a reminder. It was amazing. You know, people get off the road when it snows. I didn't have that in me. If there was a storm or whatever, I had to get someplace I'd go. I was a volunteer my senior year of high school, and I was driving. I was working with an infant education program, 5 and under, who could, they were developmentally disabled kids. And I would go and pick up this 2.5-year-old and take her to Ohio State University. And, but it was raining. To me, it was rain. I couldn't see the road. I have no idea how I got there, but I got to her house. I got to Ohio State, and they're like, "You're here?" And I'm well, yeah, why wouldn't I be? There's tornadoes out there. Now, this is another thing, you know, at the time, her mother put her in the car with me. I got home that night, my mom says, "Are you okay?" I go, "Yeah, why wouldn't I be?" Well, where I went in the neighborhood where I picked up the little girl, 3 tornadoes hit that day. I was out there driving. These near misses, you know, things that take your breath away. Things that show you what you're made of. Things that you know who you are. Things that change your life. You know, Dakota ate 3 of Paul's motorcycle seats. It was not funny. It was not funny. It was the construction bike, you know, and it's a Stingray seat. He was on his 3rd one. And we were still in Studio City, and we had this little fence, you know what I mean, a fence that was about this big. And I got him out of the place where he ate the seat to then try and muster up the courage to call Paul. And then I put him in the fence and the gate, and I was on the phone with my support group person. I called somebody in my support group and goes, "Oh my God, he did it again. What am I going to do? I can't call Paul. How do I tell him?" Anyway, I hear this scream from Dakota that I've never heard a scream like that in my whole life. And he, because I isolated him, jumped over the fence and got his toe caught in the top part of that, you know where the top part of it is? He was hanging, and his head was on the ground, you know, like on the ground like that. And he weighs 120 pounds. He weighs as much as I do with one leg hanging. And I went out and I threw the phone down, so my poor friend was listening. And I grabbed his leg and I couldn't lift him. And the more he pulled, the tighter the linkage went down on his toe. And so I lifted it with all my might, and I really, honest to God, it was a prayer. And I just looked at his toe and I said, "Let go, let go, let go, let go." And in my mind's eye, in my experience, it looked like his pad shrunk and slipped out. And then he was released. I'm not lying to you, because otherwise there was no way to get him out of that situation. But, you know, that thing about metaphysics and our intention and what you're seeing and what you're doing, that to me took my breath away. Not because I was able to save him or what happened or, you know, the bad part of the taking my breath away and hearing that horrible scream that I never want to hear from an animal again. But I literally watched his foot change shape and release itself. And then, of course, then I had to call. Then I had no problem calling Paul. A shift, I was no longer afraid of the consequences or whatever would happen, because I had just witnessed something that metaphysics tells us is possible. Now I had a couple of holes in my leg. Chenoa was trying to brace himself with my leg, which makes sense. So I had a couple of puncture wounds, but and he came in and licked his and licked mine. So it was not even, we have a moment together that we'll both never forget, Chenoa and I. But those are life events, things that you stop and hopefully appreciate and actually let settle into your body so that in the next breath, in the next moments, you remember something. Also, when I was 11, the moon landing. I actually landed on the moon. I didn't get those consequences necessarily, but about this talk being is that a lot of things happened to me when I was 11. But when I was 11, also, we came home from church and we turned on the TV and my father was probably looking for a game, and on the television was a documentary called Say Goodbye. And it was about all of the animals that we were endangering and losing. From seals to whales to pelicans, those are the ones that I remember specifically. But it stopped me in my tracks so much so that I didn't even sit down. I remember the television was down here in our room. We came in the garage door and I stopped right behind the couch. Because I saw what was happening, which I will not talk about. But I couldn't move, and then I cried for about 3 days. Because I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe man's inhumanity to animals to such an extent that we would risk an entire species. And there's no way that does not dictate what I'm doing here today. No way that moment in time and what it did to me lets me know and informs me why I'm here. It took almost 50 years to get here. But it doesn't surprise me because the impact of that film and what it did to my whole self forever. And I'm grateful for it. It hurt me. It still hurts me. But I'm so grateful someone made that. And that I could watch it and that it would take me in a direction where I can be proud of what I do with my life. You understand? But it hurt. And it did a good injury. It left a really important scar on my psyche and propelled me in a direction that I'm proud of. Because when those puppies were born and I got to witness that, I literally sat in my robe for 2 weeks and watched them grow. I didn't have anything to do better than that. Sorry. As I snort on you. Oh my God. Seriously, Paul, come home. I hadn't done anything but sit and watch them grow. To watch the magnificence of what Allie did and how she took care of them. And that has, just the experiences of giving your heart and soul to something, to someone, to some beings, to each other. And the impact we have. The things that hurt us and the things that, make us happy, to bring us joy. We're made of all the moments, all the things that take our breath away. This is unknown. It was on the internet just this morning so I could see it. Not all wounds are so obvious. And walk gently in the lives of others. No one knows where you've been. But we should take for granted that you've been someplace where love would be the way to approach you. Waste thy words before thou givest them breath. William Shakespeare. How are they going to land before you say them? A friend is one to whom you can pour out the contents of your heart, knowing that the gentlest of hands will take and sift it Keep what is worth keeping, and with a breath of kindness, blow the rest away. Ancient lovers believed a kiss would literally unite their souls because the spirit was said to be carried in one's breath. You guys have this to look forward to. But kisses, oh my gosh, aren't they the best? Isn't that what it feels like when it works? Because you know what mouth is not supposed to be on your mouth. Do you know what I mean? And so when that mouth that hits the mouth that's yours and that you unite and that you can share that kiss. I mean, that's what the fairy tale promises, you know? Love is like a painting. In the beginning, it's only an idea. But over time, it's built up through errors and corrections till you have a breathtaking work of art for all to see. And I claim that that's all of us. That's what we all are. Our works of art. With all the corrections and all of the love that started in it and all of the time that you put into it. And you're not done yet. You're not done yet. A man is no more than breath until his breath fashions the words that others cannot forget. And I think that that's poetry and that's song and that's plays and that's movies and that's teaching, that's us communicating to each other. But I'm going to invite Karen up again because she has another great song called The Call. And that's by the other lady. By Regina Spektor.
So, on the subject of taking your breath away, I just remembered the very first time I came to Shadowland. We were actually here for like a birthday party for Melissa's friend, I think, who's my sister. And when we first got out of the car and were walking towards the wolves enclosure, Colette was standing outside with Allie on a leash, and my first thought that went in my head was, oh my gosh, a real life wolf. That's a wolf. And I was just so excited. And yeah. That's my story. It started out as a feeling, which then grew into a hope, which then turned into a quiet thought, which then turned into a quiet word. And then that word grew louder and louder, till was a battle cry. I'll come back when you call me. No need to say goodbye. I'll come back when you call me. No need to say goodbye. Just because everything's changing doesn't mean it's never been this way before. All you can do is try to know who your friends are as you head off to the war. Pick a star on the dark horizon and fall on a light. They'll come back when it's over. No need to say goodbye. You'll come back when it's over. No need to say goodbye. Now we're back to the beginning. It's just a feeling and no one knows yet. But Just because they can't feel it too doesn't mean that you have to forget. Let your memories grow stronger and stronger till they're before your eyes. You'll come back when they call you. No need to say goodbye. You'll come back when they call you. No need to say goodbye.
It's true. What orbit of the planets has put you and me in this place at this moment where time takes a breath and we dance on the edge of our dreams? I love that quote because each week, whoever shows up here, you're taking my breath away. It's true. And I'm going to read this again because that's what I believe we're doing here together. What orbit of planets has put you and me in this place at this moment where time takes a breath and we dance on the edge of our dreams together? I'm so grateful for your presence and for your being here. I want you to take a look over here and Tommy.
Oh, yeah.
Tommy Jola. This is our new sign. It's going to go up behind me. We still have to work out the mechanics, but Outlaw Carpenter is way to go. Thank you, Tommy. Thank you, Tommy. So, you know, the people who come here and help us in any way that we can, we're so grateful for it, for your love offerings, for any monetary gifts that you offer us. It helps us build and grow, and so we're just so grateful. For Margie and Teresa, who bring these gifts and make these things so that we can raise money, so that we can continue to grow and bring this out to more people. For those of you who don't know Ashley has volunteered to actually film these, and we've got, this is now our 4th episode because last week we did 2. I know. So we're hoping within 2 weeks' time, the Nature's Path website will be up. The Healing Center's website will be up, and then you'll be able to, if you miss a day, you can actually go on and watch us and watch the services if you miss them. So thank you very,
Thank you.
very much. There's a lot of talent in this room. Yay! Always for Antoinette, who helps me with the wolves, is our new trainer. She's no longer a handler, she is a trainer. She trained all by herself on Thursday while we did other things. And to Karen once again for bringing such beautiful things. Please join us afterwards. We'll go see the wolves. There's refreshments, and then also you can burn your burdens. And if he's not going to make a fire, you're going to make a fire. He'll make a fire. We can burn them ourselves. If you don't want to burn them, put them in the basket. I'll burn them for you. Okay, let's finish with our beautiful song that we always end with, "Face of God." And for those of you who have done it, there's sign language to it, so you get it. You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. Thank you.
Face of God.
Aye.